Hey everybody. If you're out there, first I want to say thank you for joining. Go ahead and plop something in the comment section and I'll see if I can figure out how to actually respond to you. So again, thank you for your patience with me as I navigate this Facebook land and world. So I wanted to come and speak to you guys today. I promise I won't take too much time to just kind of start talking to you a little bit about my health journey, because I think I can identify with actually many of you out there. I've had kind of an interesting twist and turn that's happened throughout my whole life. And so if it's not something that you resonate with for yourself, perhaps, maybe it's something that resonates with somebody you know. So please feel free to share this and you're going to get an idea and a glimpse into how did a nurse that was super medically oriented and very evidence-based and protocol driven get to the land of holistic nutrition? Well, it actually was because of my own health and my health journey. So I'm just going to kind of dive in if that's okay with you. Essentially, I want you to kind of understand kind of a basic topic of when does the health of the baby actually start? And the reason I want to bring this forward is when I was born with eggs inside my ovaries. Okay. So that meant that when my mommy had me in her tummy, she actually was helping to get my body prepared to have my own babies. So that meant that when she was inside her mommy, the same thing happened to her. So to try to connect this generationally as we go, you have an impact on your future grandchildren when you're having your own children, okay? So this scene for my life was set actually with my grandma, with the eggs inside my mom. The reason I want you to understand this is because as I had my children, just as my mom had me, whatever was going on in my life impacted my children just like her life impacted mine. So you are the product of the pregnancy that you were with, okay? So life doesn't just start when the baby comes out of the mommy, is I guess what I'm trying to say. So I was a baby, I was a vaginal birth, and again, I'm a nurse, I was an OB nurse, so I kind of talk about this stuff. So please forgive me if I get a little kind of too medically on you. That's not what I'm trying to do. I just love to share with you, kind of to try to connect all the dots. So I was born, uncomplicated, no major issues, and just like many of the babies that were in my generation, just so you know, I'm very transparent. I'm a 50-year-old woman, so I was born in 1974. And a lot of babies at that time, formula was the way to feed your child. I really also want to stress something. So I have a neonatal intensive care background as well. So that means I took care of babies that were sick. I have no anything on what people choose to do to feed their babies. I really want you to understand. Breast milk to me is the best thing because that's literally the way God designed us to feed our children. However, babies need to eat. So however this baby's eating is however this baby's eating is my motto, okay? Now, I also understand a little bit more about nutrition and what the groundwork is that's laid and how your gut develops depending on what goes in it. And so the reason I bring forward the idea that I was a formula baby, like maybe a lot of you out there, is I might have had a little bit of a different type of bacteria growth inside my belly. All that means is that there's something called a microbiome, or it's the little bugs that live in your belly. They're super important in order to help you grow, learn, have an immune system, develop neurotransmitters. So we can talk a lot about that at a whole nother time. But you need to understand that this is part of how my life played forward. Okay, so I was a formula-fed baby. I grew up in a household that ate your standard American diet. And I didn't really have any major health issues that I'm aware of that my mom has told me about until I got to probably the age of 14. So like many girls, the average age for having your menstrual cycle start is when you're 12. And that's when I started. There was pretty much no complication with anything. When I was 14, though, I actually had the first episode where I passed out related to a ruptured ovarian cyst. So this was something that I had no idea was going on. I would have kind of pain with a cycle, but at the same time, I had no idea until I passed out. And they did some examinations and said, you were full of ovarian cysts and they ruptured. So therefore, we're going to go ahead and you're going to need birth control. So at the age of 14, I started oral birth control pills to regulate my cycles to prevent me from having ovarian cysts, was the understanding. Fast forward until I was 17 or a senior in high school. At that time, my wisdom teeth started coming in. And so very common practice. I don't know, maybe many of you are very similar. My wisdom teeth didn't fit in my mouth. And in fact, I actually have a small mouth. I know for many of you that do know me, that's a very surprise since it's flapping all the time and I don't stop talking. I have a small head, a small facial structure, and a very small mouth. So they had to go in surgically to remove them. They were impacted. So that meant that they needed to really break them apart and pull them out and yank them. Sometimes you can develop complications. I did. All 4 were what we would call dry sockets. What that means is I just had a really yucky infection in all 4 of them. So I needed to have follow-up care for quite a while in order to manage that and take care of that. I then went off to college. So going off to college, no major issues. I was like, I don't know, maybe a lot of people at the time. I found beer. I loved beer. I thought it was great. I went to parties and I just hooped it up. I came back, I remember, for Christmas break, and I needed a whole bunch of fillings. So many that I had all my molars on the top and the bottom filled. At that time, what we were using were amalgam fillings. Now, amalgam fillings, they have a lot of heavy metals in them. And so some of them are mercury, again, toxic metal, and some other types of things that are inside them. And what happens is sometimes those metals can leach and can be kind of impacting your body. At that point in time, that wasn't my concern. My concern was the fact I just had fillings. Fast forward into that next following summer, I started having issues with my jaw. At that time, what happened was my jaw would get locked open or locked closed. Now, that's a problem when you're trying to, well, talk. Okay, that was definitely an issue for me. But also when you're trying to eat. So I would be, say, eating an apple or something. I did eat apples on occasion. So again, my diet wasn't maybe the best. I personally loved cereal. That was my go-to. Pop-Tarts was one of my other go-tos, and ramen noodles when I was in college. That's pretty much my diet. That's all I loved. Oh, plus Diet Coke. I love Diet Coke. Anywho, back to the point I was trying to make. My jaw would lock and I couldn't close it. So we ended up seeing different specialists. This is when the specialist thing started for me. So I've had a lot of ologists in my life, and this was one of them. End up at the University of Minnesota. What's really kind of interesting is at that time, the cool thing to do, or the latest and greatest medical thing, was there's ligaments that hold your bones together. So you're got different bones in your facial structure here. So there's this part here and this part here. Right in here is where there's a ligament. And that ligament on both sides was stretched. Now, why was that stretched? Who knows? There's a part of me that wonders if it was related to the procedure that I had with my wisdom tooth extraction. I don't know. Who knows? Not going to be able to say yes or no. All I know is the decision was made with the information at that time to go ahead, do surgery. So I have 2 surgical scars, and then shorten the ligaments in that jaw. That was the cool thing to do. So went ahead, did it. What ended up happening then is I was on pureed food. I couldn't eat, I couldn't chew, I couldn't anything. So my go-to for sure was, let's see, noodles and noodles. That was my diet. Fast forward to the next year, I started having some interesting pain. I was having pain in my upper right quadrant. So that means that's kind of the area right kind of under the breast, under the rib area. It hurt bad, and it also radiated to my back. Those are also similar symptoms to gallbladder problems. But at that time, I was 20 years old. 20-year-olds, they don't have issues like that. That's just not normal. So I ended up with a bunch of different ologists again. Everybody was trying to figure out what was going on. And finally, the best information that was given to us at the time was to go ahead and remove the gallbladder. I was told, you don't need a gallbladder anyways. Go ahead and get rid of it. So we cut it out. I had a perfectly healthy gallbladder. The pathology report that came back said that there was sludge. There were no stones, but there was this sludge, thick stuff. So what that says is that something wasn't working correctly in the detoxification process in the liver, and it created this sludge. But again, based on that time frame in life and the knowledge base, all right, we're just going to go ahead and cut things out. So interesting things that were kind of happening, right? And here I am, 20 years old. I've already had a couple of surgeries and still taking birth control and eating a diet that probably wasn't the most healthy. It was definitely a college, I don't have any money kind of diet, very high in carbohydrate and also processed foods and the low fat stuff that was going on at that time. Again, remember, back in the 80s and 90s, low fat was the big thing. You don't eat fat. You don't do anything other than that type of food. So I will go ahead, start wrapping this part up here for the health history. I wanted to just take a little bit of time to share a little bit about the backstory of how I got to where I was. So we're going to jump into the next component of the health history on the next live that I'm going to do. So I'll take you from when I got married through having some babies and starting to kind of get into some of the more, I would say, a little bit more invasive and more dramatic things and more ologists. Another thing I want to also mention to you is that I will be having a workshop where I'm going to kind of dive into how I got here as well. So you're going to get little snippets as I go along. But what will happen is in this workshop, I'm going to address the chronic pain and fatigue that brought me to my knees. And it brought me to not feeling well and doing something that was completely out of my world and out of my comfort zone and out of my realm when I jumped from the medical into the natural world. So I want you to understand how that process went. I'm going to do a workshop so I can kind of walk you through it. And so if you know anyone that has joint pain, if you have joint pain, if you're kind of frustrated with the way that the medical system is not maybe hearing you or isn't really working, you're trying tons of things, you're trying different medications, maybe you've already had body parts cut out like I have. This will be the one for you because I'm going to kind of walk you through how you can make that leap and how you can do it and realize that, you know what, nutrition does work. Lifestyle and the right nutrition for your body actually can help you heal the way God intended. So that workshop, I've got links, and I think this is going to be backwards. Yeah, you can't quite read that, I don't think. But I will be having it on Tuesday, April 29th from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. It is in the Innovation Center, which is in the Business Park north of River Falls. You can get more information on my Facebook page. I do have an event created, and I'll also drop a link in the bottom of this presentation here with you guys right now so you can go ahead and sign up. There is limited seating. There's no cost to it. I'm all about trying to help you understand and help educate. So zero cost on it. I'll probably have a little snack for you because I like to feed people. So next live, we're going to try a morning. So this next Thursday at 8 o'clock, I'm going to try live again. We'll see how it goes. If you can't catch it, you can catch it on the back end. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in a little bit. Bye-bye.